Yeah, sorry, the Chair. I was just about to send you a text because I have to do an interview at 1. So I'll ask the question and I listen back for the answer. And thank you all very much for the presentation today. The one question I want to ask all of you is that while the technology works, would you agree that simply supporting the sector with this technology is no substitute for actually cutting the usage of methane and carbon in all areas? So, yeah, we want to support local cooperative use of this technology, but I don't think it should be in order to boost or maintain the dairy herds or pig herd or whatever it is at the current status that it's at. And there is a report from America that I read that says that anaerobic digesters are solving problems created by large-scale factory farming in the first place, problems that are avoided in more sustainable systems. Now, obviously, there's a role for it. It should be supported, but not as a substitute to other measures that may help us to reduce our emissions, particularly in methane. And I would ask you, could you comment on that? And unfortunately, I do have to leave to do an interview now, but I will look back on the record for the answers. So thanks again.
Thank you, thank you, Deputy Smith. And I guess it's an open question to all our guests, so whoever wants to go first. Mr. Cullen.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and again, thanks for the question. And look, we all agree the technology works. I think that's been long established now. And look, I think my role is representing farmers, and I've said consistently here this morning is, you know, what's very important at the moment is food security, and you know, we're not, look, obviously if this is going to reduce emissions, it's always very, very welcome as well. As I say, we take, you know, the environment challenge very, very seriously within our organisation, and our members do as well. And I think, like, there was a direct question there about boosting the herd or maintaining the herd, and you know, we're not discussing the herd here at all. You know, what we've been working on and consistently working on is the amount of methane emissions we have to deal with. And you know, we have a roadmap on that. Farmers have done substantial amount of work already in dealing with the emissions, are willing to do a lot more. And you know, as I already said, you know, the science is evolving, and I think that's very important. So you know, that's our clear view on the emissions.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Mr. Cullen. Mr. Gavin, did you want to come in on it? Yeah.
Yeah, just, and again, it's quite in support of what previous speaker there in terms of agriculture as it stands in Ireland. Our units of production in terms of the carbon emissions are one of the lowest in Europe in both beef and dairy terms. So I don't see much anything but advantage to actually using biogas to deal with waste materials which are currently being produced and are providing a much more economic way and a much more efficient way of recycling those. Also, a vast quantity of the material we're looking at using is waste materials, which is collected from everyone's house. It's not, this is brown bin waste, it's food waste, and although there is lots of strategies there to reduce food waste, and they've been ongoing for over a decade, and I was involved in them up to 15 years ago, it's still been produced, and you know, we're going to see some reduction in that, we think, but it's not something that we're going to see eliminated by any means. So there is always going to be brown bin waste, and being able to have an efficient, environmentally friendly way of not just dealing with that waste, but recycling those nutrients, which are now extremely valuable, back out of it. If we want to have a true circular economy, we need to be recycling those. So we are going to have that material there in place. Finally, just on the point in terms of reducing the overall demand, yes, well, look, we do want to bring efficiency into the overall economy, and reducing demand for gas and all forms of need for energy is obviously something that we're all trying to do. And as we see energy prices going very high over the last while, and we see it continuing at that level for some time, any approach we can make to reduce that is being taken in place, but we still need to replace that energy we do need with low carbon sources.
Okay, thank you. And JP, or sorry, Mr. Prendergast.
Thank you. Just a follow-on point from that, we were involved in the last 2 or 3 years in the green gas certification process, where the point of origin where you produce your gas, one of the opportunities that is produced or presented in the last 2 years is district heating, where we can now have rural Ireland supporting the projects in the larger cities and towns where we use biomethane rather than gas. So you've got just the regeneration of gas, but you've got that carbon credit associated with it. So again, I would suggest that in the overall picture here, rather than a hindrance to have the biomethane, look at also the opportunities that it presents accordingly. Thank you.
Dr. Bosang, did you want to go in?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Deputy Smith, because it's a really important consideration and question. I mean, we can't continue in business as usual, and certainly one of the key priorities will be addressing and reducing our energy demand in the first place. I mean, I think in the Climate Action Plan, the target for biomethane is 1.6 terawatt hours by 2030, and as far as I understand, that constitutes 3% of our natural gas supply currently. So if we have a situation where our demand for natural gas is increasing, that's going to diminish further. So it's very important that the wider context for energy demand reduction and the need for decarbonisation is considered. And I suppose, again, considering the wider context for decarbonisation, it is a relatively small percentage that biomethane is going to play in that picture. And what's equally important is the other parts that are going to be important for decarbonisation in terms of other renewable gases like hydrogen. In the roadmap produced by Gas Networks Ireland to 2050, the other key components in that context for decarbonisation are hydrogen and also carbon capture and storage for fossil gas. So, they all have a role to play in achieving the targets when biomethane is included.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Breton.
Thank you. I'll just say within the Waste Framework Directive, there is a target to reduce food waste by 50%. So, however aspirational or hopeful that target may be, residents, households, citizens, businesses will always create food waste. So we will always have a organic waste to deal with. We not generate, our members, there's people don't deliberately generate food waste. So it's, from a waste generation side, I would say from organics, it's a bit of a red herring. We're not there to generate waste. With AD combined with composting is the perfect solution for the organics that we will produce them.
Okay, thank you. And